I made a huge mistake. I added a real bot to the Minecraft, which is controlled by artificial intelligence. It follows commands, acts like a full-fledged player, and can do whatever it's told to do. So I wondered, if this bot named Andy can actually beat Minecraft, would he be able to get his first tools, travel to Nether, trade with the piglins, and eventually defeat the Ender Dragon? The answer is already out there, and it's in this video. Subscribe and here we go! It started out pretty easy. I was very happy when the bot appeared in my world. You can only communicate with him via chat and all in English, but there were no problems with that. Unfortunately, he doesn't have vision in the usual sense. He doesn't see the game that we see it. Instead, he has something like a text dataset in front of him. His every movement and action is simply the execution of lines of code. So when I asked him if he could see me, he eagerly replied that he did, and even looked at me. The first task for him was an obvious one. Get wood. Minecraft doesn't do without it, and the bot humbly said about the task. He managed to do this without any problems, as well as to turn the wood into planks and create a workbench. We didn't have a chance to see the crafting process itself, of course, but I think he did it as quickly as possible. When he started to create a wooden pickaxe, he suddenly claimed that he didn't have enough wood and started chopping wood further. This was strange, because he definitely had enough material. Once the pickaxe was ready, I asked him to get a stone. Funny enough, but instead of going to the nearest visible area with stone, the bot started digging a pit down. I think the most players would have gone up to an elevated area and mined the stone there, since it was clearly visible. But the bot knew the stone would be closer under the layer of grass, and I think it decided to cheat a bit. An element of cheating was present, as you will see next. He was digging rather oddly, creating tunnels as if he was trying to get at something, even though his job was simply to get a stone. But officially we can say that the bot managed to mine all the resources necessary for the start. This pleased and even inspired me. The next step was to create stone tools. As I said before, I can't see its interface, so I had my doubts that it actually crafted them. To make sure, I asked him to toss me the stone sword, and he didn't hesitate to immediately drop it for me. When I asked him if he still had the sword, he honestly said he didn't, because he had just given it to me. As soon as Andy was equipped with the stone tools, we set off to get food. We couldn't do without it. There were a lot of animals in a small field that had kindly agreed to donate some food to us, so the bot started to get beef. But there was a problem. After killing a few cows, Andy decided that they were gone and suddenly ran into the forest, not responding to my commands. He decided to look for the food there. Likely, after a while he came back and even started to get some pork. Meanwhile, it was getting close to nightfall. We had done extremely little for the first day, and that made me a bit frustrated. I wanted to be in the Nether by now, but I decided to let the situation go, because our goal was to beat Minecraft, not to do it as quickly as possible. So I gave him the task of getting wool and creating a bed as swiftly as possible to pass the night. The bot, of course, is definitely not a human. It mercilessly killed the little sheep. I hope they don't rise up against us someday, right? After collecting enough wood, the bot created a bed, placed it oddly, and went to sleep. The first day, I think, went well. Yes, it took longer than expected, but all in all, I'm satisfied. The second day started with a new task for Andy: mining iron. Without iron, fighting monsters would be difficult. As I said before, it's as if the bot knows where the ore is, as if it has an X-ray, because it goes straight to the target. That's why it was not difficult for him to get 100 of iron ore. I think that's a plus though. But you know what was really scary? When we found ourselves in a dark cave, I decided to give myself night vision, so that both of you and I could watch Andy more easily. To this he replied, "Oh, I see you have turned on your night vision. Now you'll be able to see the iron ore glowing." That was really creepy, but it only happened once. Of course, it was not without problems. This project is quite raw and is done by enthusiasts on voluntary basis, so the bot is often dumb. For example, it may get stuck in one action or simply freeze. You will see everything yourself. For example, when his pickaxe broke during a jump, he hovered in the air. You have to either reload the world or just wait, and then he goes back to normal. On the way back, we mined some coal to smelt the iron. It was amusing to watch the bot put the coal and iron ore into the furnace, but take the smelted ingot one at a time each time, instead of waiting for the entire quantity to be smelted. However, this was not its strangest feature. What surprised me the most was how the bot creates multiple items at once. I asked him to make a full set of iron armor, and he started. First he would set a workbench, create one item, then destroy the workbench, equip the armor, set up the workbench again, and so on in a circle until he finished creating a complete set. You have to agree, it looks pretty crazy. Remember when I said that Andy could see through the walls and knew where everything was? Well, at one point it was like he sensed a zombie and started running away from him in a panic, even though I couldn't see the zombie. The zombie was nowhere around, and it was just thrashing back and forth, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. The bot wasn't responding to my comments, even when I asked him to not be afraid of zombies. He agreed, but as soon as zombie appeared nearby, he ran away like a coward. At some point I remembered that it's possible to create a shield so Andy could defend himself. I thought that maybe it was just lack of a shield that made him so afraid. I asked him to make his own shield, but it turned out he didn't have any wood, so the bot started climbing up to get the resources he needed. However, trouble came from the wrong place. There was a skeleton waiting for him at the exit. Of course, the skeleton immediately attacked, and Andy tried to run away. At some point, he just left the server by himself. That's how scared he was of the skeleton. After a couple seconds, he came back out again. I will clarify that it was not a lag. Everything was fine. The bot was really trying to run away. Then I had my doubts whether it could even handle Ender Dragon. In the end, Andy was still able to run away from the skeleton after all. But after hiding from him, he unfortunately couldn't escape from the second one, and he got his first official death. I couldn't even understand why this happened. Why is he afraid of mobs and not trying to defend himself? I immediately dismissed the theories that he didn't know how to fight, because he was quite successful at hunting animals for food. When I returned to Andy, I found that he was clearly having trouble with the hostile monsters. They surrounded him on all sides, and he didn't know what to do or where to run. At one point he was being chased by 2 zombies, a skeleton and 3 creepers. I felt sorry for him, so I decided to help him get his stuff back. This time Andy was able to quickly create a shield for himself, and I hoped that now he would no longer be afraid of monsters. To be on the safe side, I asked him to get some diamonds to create armor and tools, but instead he just stumbled in the lava. He didn't even try to get out of it. He just stood there and took damage. Yeah, he was a real failure. My hopes that the shield would make Andy braver and keep him safe were instantly dashed. 2 zombies came out of the cave and started chasing him, while he just ran away. I wasn't happy with that, so I decided to figure out what the problem was. Maybe I needed to give him commands in a special way. It turned out that everything was as simple as possible. There are various options in his settings: collecting items, placing torches, hunting, and most importantly, cowardice. It was enabled, which made Andy afraid of hostile mobs. After changing these settings, nothing changed at first glance. Since Andy had it already dug down, I decided it would be a good idea to go diamond mining. Once again, it was obvious that he couldn't see the exact location of the blocks. The bot was going directly to them, rather than searching for them like normal players do. I was very happy when Andy came out of the cave and rushed to the creeper as soon as he saw him. He stopped being scared and started fighting monsters. From that moment on, I felt a little calmer. Andy enjoyed fighting so much that he ignored my request to make iron boots and went to fight the spiders instead. The only problem, in my opinion, is the speed of reaction. When the bot is focused on one task, it needs time to switch to another. Andy was attacked by a skeleton, and the first arrow of fire don't make him defend himself in any way, because he was waiting for the iron to smelt. There were other problems, but not as significant. For example, when I asked him to mine deep slate diamond ore, since we were below 0, Andy probably didn't understand me and just started mining simple deep slate. He seems to have certain patterns he uses to interact with the world. Anyway, after I restarted the request, he started mining diamonds. After 5-7 minutes, Andy was ready to create a full set of diamond armor. Yeah, being able to mine diamonds that fast is not fair. Andy again decided that it was easier to set up a workbench, craft something, then destroy it and put it back up again, but who are we to judge him for that? At the same time, I asked him to create an empty bucket as well, as it was getting close to creating a portal to Nether for getting ender pearls and blaze rods. Once we got to the surface, Andy got some food and recooked it for later use. When it came time to fill the bucket with water, big problems began. Firstly, Andy truly refused to notice the water that was 30 blocks away from him. It was as if he were purposely walking in the opposite direction and looking for water where there was none. Then he began to get distracted by peaceful animals, going into hunting mode to get food, but each time he wouldn't freeze up and then log out of the server, probably due to overload. When we finally got to the water, Andy announced that he had filled a bucket of water and was ready to go on. But when I asked him to drop me a bucket of water, he threw away the empty one. It turned out that he had never been able to get water. After another request, Andy ignored me and decided he was better off standing right in the water block. He still didn't want to get it on and even started trying to get water with the diamond axe. attacks. Eventually, I asked him to throw away the empty bucket so I could fill the water myself. So, with the task of filling the bucket with water, Andy failed. Of course, I had my doubts, but I still hoped that Andy could create a portal to Nether like cool speedrunners do. So, I asked him about it, and I got a confident, positive answer. He even said he could see lava that had to turn into obsidian. But again, something went wrong, and he decided to mine the water underground first. Once again, when I asked him to create a portal, Andy started running away. I thought he has glitched again, but in fact he found a destroyed portal not far from the spot. He started mining obsidian from it. This made me feel a little better, because the chances of successfully creating the portal were starting to increase. It was a great bonus that we found a flint and steel and golden chestplate in the chest near the portal to help us avoid the aggression of the piglins. Of course, the blocks weren't enough, so I urged Andy to turn the lava into obsidian using a bucket of water, but he still couldn't do it. In the end, I had to pour the water out, and then Andy had no problem mining the obsidian. With great hope, I wrote a request in chat to build a portal to Nether, and the bot instantly agreed. However, it started building the wrong thing. Just take a look for yourself. Yes, I was as shocked as you right now. This was definitely not the result I had planned. I thought I had given too vague a comment, and perhaps I should have specified the dimension of the portal. So when Andy got the right number of blocks, I wrote in more detail. Build a portal that was 4x5 blocks. But that didn't work either. The bot started randomizing the blocks again. In the end, I built the portal, because Andy couldn't do it. It was sad, but I didn't give up hope and believed that at least he would be able to activate the portal. After my request, of course, he came over, pretended to activate the portal, and even said in chat that we could go on new adventures in Nether. After about 5 tries, he finally fired up the portal and we were in Nether. I have never been so excited in my life. Once in Nether, Andy equipped a golden chestplate so as not to attract too much attention. But what was my surprise when he suddenly decided to attack a zombified piglin? Yes, disabling cowardice is a good thing, but it still guards against Russian stupid actions. In Nether, except for blazes and rare cases, it's best to not fight other mobs. It's much easier and safer to avoid them. I thought that if I asked Andy to find the Nether fortress, he would use his superpowers again and find it in seconds. But it's more complicated than that. If he doesn't find the blocks from the fortress, he started moving on in random direction for 50-100 blocks, then tries to find it again. This continued until he either found the fortress or he glitched. When we finally found it, it was almost quite inside. At the intersection, we immediately noticed the blaze spawner. I saw it, but Andy turned around and ran away, thinking there was no spawner nearby. It didn't take too long to convince him. He quickly agreed to come back and went to get the blaze rods. Of course, Andy had a lot of problems. He was dying all the time, because he didn't know how to use his shield and he was overconfident. I realized that he was going to die a lot, so I turned on the keep inventory rule. He died a lot of times fighting the blazes, and it showed once again that a little cowardice is still useful. The funny thing was that Andy was ignoring the blaze rods. He just didn't want to pick them up, so I had to do it for him and then toss them to him. For some reason, Andy decided that his main objective was to destroy the blazes, not obtaining rods. While exploring the fortress, Andy kept looking for blazes and I was looking through the chest and found gold. I asked him to take it, but Andy replied that he had focused on finding blazes and couldn't be distracted by my requests. It was a little frustrating. Even as I brought Andy to the Bastion remnant, he was still trying to find the blazes, ignoring my request for him to stop. All we had to do was get the gold blocks and run away as fast as possible, but he had blaze hunting on his mind. I ended up having to just reboot him. After rebooting, Andy started acting normal and finally saw the gold blocks I kept telling him about. He immediately started mining them, but again there was a problem. He was attacked by a small hoglin. For some reason, Andy didn't try to defend himself or attack. He just kept mining the gold as if nothing was happening. Of course, I had to intervene, but he still accomplished the task of mining. When I told him to get out of the Bastion, Andy was suddenly attacked by a piglin brood. This time he was not confused and quickly fought back, simply throwing the piglin down and continuing to do his business. The next problem came with Andy's reluctance to trade with the piglins. He just simply replied that he wouldn't trade with them, and when the piglin got in his way, Andy just attacked first. So I asked him to give me all the gold blocks so I could do trade myself. That was another disappointment. Battling with piglins is one of the most boring things to do. You just stand there and wait, hoping for the ender pearl to drop. After returning to the surface, I gave Andy the desired ender pearls and asked him to create the Eye of Ender, but he didn't know how to do either. He said he didn't know the recipe, and no matter how hard I tried, the result remained the same. He couldn't do it either, and unfortunately, that was just the beginning of all the problems and frustrations. Of course, creating the Eye of Ender wasn't hard for me, since Andy had thrown away the rods and blaze powder he had. The next problem was the bow. Yes, the bow. I gave him strings that I had traded with the piglins, but Andy started to get the sticks and everything else himself. The bot had no problems creating 2 bows at once, and when I asked him to drop one, he threw both of them away. One of them had a half 1 durability, which surprised me. Long story short, Andy doesn't know how to use the bow and arrow. When I give him these items, he just says he doesn't have them and switches to another task, such as getting resources for crafting. Thus, you can tell that upcoming fight with Ender Dragon is going to be even harder and longer. Even when I gave him a crossbow and arrows, Andy attacked me with a sword. Yes, another disappointment, and that's not all. The biggest disappointment is Ender's Eye. Andy doesn't know how to use it. Every time I have asked him to activate or throw the eye, he's replied that he can't or doesn't know how to do it. I even tried asking him to set fire the portal with the eye to trigger the throw, but that idea failed as well. I ended up having to do it all by myself again. Andy just followed me when I threw Ender's Eyes in hopes of finding the stronghold as quickly as possible. At one point we needed to cross the river, and Andy had no problem creating a boat. He got the resources very quickly, created the boat, and instantly dropped it to me instead of trying to place it himself. Yes, you thought right. He can interact with the boat, and he can be put in like a normal mob, because he's considered a player. When we were near the portal, I asked Andy to break the silverfish spawner, but he said that there was no spawner anywhere, so there was nothing to destroy. Of course, that's the way it is, so why not? I don't think it's worth mentioning that Andy couldn't activate the portal to the end on his own, and I had to do it instead. Once we got into the end, the bot started building some small bridges that honestly didn't lead anywhere. I didn't understand what he was up to. One of our main problems in the end was not the dragon itself, but the Enderman. There were a lot of them, and Andy paid attention to every one of them, because he turned on Hunter mode even if they didn't touch him. Somehow we were still lucky, the Endermen were far away, and we started to climb the tower to destroy the crystals. But even here I was disappointed. Andy couldn't destroy the crystals, he just didn't know what they were. It was very sad. Another important task that the bot couldn't handle. I had to do it myself. To avoid distracting Andy, I decided to set a peaceful difficulty. The dragon would still be aggressive, but the Enderman would be no longer an annoyance. That way the bot could focus on the main goal. Andy just didn't want to attack the dragon. He said he couldn't see her, even though she was standing right next to him. So I went back into his settings and turned off every ability except bravery. And you know what? It worked! He immediately decided to attack the dragon, and he was even pretty good at it. Sometimes he used a dirt block instead of a sword, but that was just nothing. Of course, he also had some problems. From time to time he stopped reacting to the dragon and just stood still. But after about 15 minutes of fighting, Andy was still able to destroy the Ender Dragon and beat the Minecraft. Yes, it was long and difficult, but in the end he made it through. His skills are still far from perfect. I had to do half of the task myself, and beating Minecraft in 3.5 hours is too long for the bot controlled by artificial intelligence. At this stage, Andy is more suitable as a fun friend who helps with block mining and brightens up boring days in game without company. But it's too early to use him for something serious. If you have any interesting ideas on how to test Andy, please write in the comments. I'm interested in new experiments. While you're waiting for the new video to be released, you can watch this. They are also very interesting. Subscribe to the channel, put thumbs up and click on the bell. We'll hear from you again as we continue to discover Minecraft in new ways.